So again, welcome to the Caregiver Wisdom Series. We're all glad that you're here. The format is we feature caregiving experts from across the nation who bring both personal and professional wisdom to the many aspects of caregiving. And we're very excited that you are able to join us. I'm Kelly Johnson, and with me is Deb Kelsey Davis. The two of us are the co-founders of Nourish for Caregivers, and we're caregivers as well ourselves. So we're honored and excited to bring this series to you, and we're so excited for you all to meet Paul Beach, who we have known for a long time now. You were at one of the first workshops that we did, is how we actually met each other many moons ago. So it's very exciting to have you here, Paul.
Thank you.
We know to everyone who's here, we know your time is precious, and we keep this all to within about an hour. So Paul will have a presentation and he'll go through things. As I said, we'll be using the chat. So go ahead if you have any questions as we're going through to put them in the chat, because we do allow some room and some time at the end for the questions and answers. Or we can direct any questions that you may have to Paul towards the end. So just kind of getting everybody in here, and then we'll begin as we always do with a prayer.
So everyone, just take a deep breath. Our days are full, aren't they? Take a deep breath, let it out. And as we start, we'll start with a prayer. Lord, thank you for this day. Lord, you know my heart, and you know my sincere desire to do your will, to do what is best. I believe I am doing so as I care for my loved one, and I thank you. I thank you for this time together. But Lord, sometimes it is very difficult, and I know that something must change. I ask you, Lord, for your help as I discern the next path. Lead me to the way I should go, and give me the courage to step forth, confident in your promise to be right there with me. And with this assurance of your presence, I surrender everything to you, not in idleness, but as a trusting, open submission to your will, Lord. Secure in knowing you recognize my needs, as well as what my loved one requires. I trust in you, Lord, and in that reliance on you, I find your peace, your joy, and I rest, just rest in your love. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Deb.
Mm-hmm.
So let me introduce you to Paul. Paul has been working with Homewatch CareGivers for about 4 years. Homewatch CareGivers offers specialized non-medical home care services to clients of all ages, including seniors, people with disabilities, and all others who are needing assistance to maintain their quality of life. Paul came to work in the home health industry after experiencing his own family's challenges. So his family went through independent living, supportive living and rehab, caregiving, assisted living, and finally hospice. He has a unique insight on issues surrounding the challenges of caregiving, the emotional toll that it places on families, and the various services and supports that are available for families. And that's what he's going to be speaking on tonight. So we're very excited to have you here. Thank you, Paul. Welcome.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Deb. Number one, I'm thrilled to be associated with the two of you. As you said, I was there at the launch, per se. And the reason I was there at the launch is because I believed in what you were doing. It was an amazing service that you provide. And it kind of falls in line of my background, as Kelly just mentioned. A little bit more about my background. I had the Catholic guilt going too. My parents were in the East Coast and I was in Illinois. And I got into becoming working with caregiving because I wanted to basically play it forward. I needed to play it forward about if I couldn't be there for my family, I wanted to be there for others. And it put me into the caregiving world. My background is not even close to being in this area. I was in legal and in corporate. So this might be similar to what you all are experiencing, that you were not destined to become a caregiver, but now you are. So what I'd like to do is just go through a few things that being a part of the caregiving industry and in the health industry, some things that I've picked up, some things that might be some resources for you. And mostly I want to identify some areas that you may see that you need some assistance with, or as that beautiful prayer had mentioned, some of the paths that we might need to take. So with that said, I can't see the chat box, but I know that Kelly and Deb will be monitoring it,
You turn it up from your
and
end.
will be saying stuff to me as we go through this. So let's go. So what is a caregiver? Well, by definition, is a caregiver is a paid or unpaid member of a person's social network who helps them with activities of daily living. Since they have no specific professional training, they are often described as informally as caregivers. Caregivers most commonly assist with impairments related to old age, disability, disease, or mental disorder. In reality, what is a caregiver? It's you. You are a caregiver. You are a spouse. You are a mom, or you're a dad. You're a daughter, or you're a son. But you're not alone in this. The number of Americans that ages 65 or older is projected to more than double. This might be a little dated, to
Just have to
46
read.
million to over 98 million by 2060. So well, there's going to be a population out there that's going to need assistance. And when seniors need assistance, 82% of them stay in their own home, 9% are going to live in senior communities, and 4% live with a family. Now, I will caution you on these stats. This was before COVID. I would imagine that from COVID, the numbers would probably be skewed in regards to the living in the senior communities. And also, there might be more living at home, or might be more living with family members. So 30 million households, that's 23%, are providing some sort of care for people over the age of 50. So many Americans, life at 40, 50, or even 60 years old will include taking care of aging parents. By the way, just so you know, they call this the sandwich generation. Sandwich generation means that you're taking care of your own family and also taking care of your adult family, which kind of puts you in the middle. That's why they call it sandwich. So what does a caregiver do? Again, let's go to the strict definition. Caregiver responsibilities include taking care of someone who has a chronic illness or a disease. It could be managing the medications, talking to the doctors or the nurses on the behalf of someone else. It could also assist in activities of daily living. This is another phrase that you might be familiar with. If not, you should become familiar with it. It's called activities of daily living, ADLs. And it's basically what kind of is around to adhere to what, if somebody can do these daily activities of daily living, they may not need help. Some people, when they can't do these things, this is where they need help. So they may need help with bathing or dressing, may doing household chores, taking their medications, things of that nature, preparing meals, managing and paying bills. So again, what does a caregiver do? In reality, it's everything. This is you guys. This is us. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But remember this, caregiving is a beautiful thing. It's not a job. It really is a calling. Now, granted, it can be a job, but the idea behind it is that you're doing something for someone else. That's a beautiful thing. Remember that. But also remember this, it's very hard. It's a hard thing. So, why can it be challenging? Because we typically don't go into caregiving because we planned on it. We go into caregiving because we have to. And this picture is what I always describe about caregiving, home health, anything of that nature, is that it's something we don't want to face. It's like being an ostrich with your head in the sand. You don't want to deal with it until you have to. And that's a lot of times what happens. It happened with our family. It might be happening to the people on the phone. So with that was said, since we haven't planned for it, we might find that not only is it hard, but it's very hard. And there's some things that you should be aware of. And I'm just telling you stuff you probably already know. But these are warning signs that tells you should be aware of that you might need help in performing your caregiving task. And I put these in some sort of buckets. There are physical signs. You're exhausted. You're worn out. All of a sudden, you're starting to suffer chronic pain or some other physical ailments. You might have been healthy before, but being a caregiver, these things could be showing up. Be aware of it. Other warning signs include emotional signs. You're resentful. You could be resentful of your siblings because they're not helping out. You could be resentful of your spouse because that person is not helping out. This is very typical that you're resentful to your siblings because you're alone or you're feeling alone doing this. You could also actually feel resentful for the person you're caregiving for. This could also add to stress. You become extremely bitter or you're anxious because you're all the three. I hate to say it, but it's normal. But please be aware of it. These are warning signs that tells you you probably need some help. Some additional signs in your relationships. It kind of goes on the emotional side we just talked about. You feel like you're being used. You're not being appreciated. Nobody says thank you. You're feeling isolated. You're in this all alone. On the practical side, because we had our head in the sand, because we haven't planned on it, you could be financially overwhelmed now. You might be expending a lot of things you didn't know you were going to spend on. You might have to stop doing a job to start taking care of a loved one, or your financials become very depleted. If anything, if these are happening, these are warning signs for you that you probably need some help or you need to take the next step. Again, going back to Deb's beautiful prayer. There's some other signs that you should think about. Are you being withdrawn now?
Yeah.
So you're caregiving, but you withdraw from everything else. It becomes all consuming. It may have to be. You're experiencing sleeplessness
I
or
think
just
I'll
having
just go in
sleep
the other room because
difficulty.
it's not worth.
You have a lack of concentration. You start to maybe have some weight issues, either losing or gaining weight. You might develop some dependency on alcohol or drugs. Obviously, these are major signs. You have an eating disorder, suffering mood swings. Please be aware of these things. These are the things that say you might need some help. So if this cartoon is a little fuzzy, but kind of goes back to an old saying that you have to take care of yourself if you're going to take care of others. So please fix your own oxygen mask before helping others. I think that is very, very apt for you as a caregiver. You got to be healthy to take care of your loved ones. So, what kind of help can you reach out for? And I put these in 3 buckets. The buckets can be very big. And what I want to do is just touch on a few of these things. Some of them are going to be things you can do now and continue to be a caregiver. Some of them might be reaching out while you're continuing to be a caregiver. Some of them might be changing how you are doing things. These are just things that are out there. So emotionally, what can we look at? Support groups. Support groups, very important. You're on a call tonight because you're in a support group. That's fantastic. That's great. And it's what I like about this particular group is that it's not only just a emotional connection, but it's also in the faith community piece of it too. It has a religious component, which is very appealing to me, what Deb and Kelly were doing. But in addition to that type of support group, there's other support groups that are both national and local. So, and I want to give you examples of a few that you can join or look into. And if you want, send a note to Deb or Kelly, and I can send these particular groups information out to them, and they can distribute it out to you guys. The first one that I just identified was the Caregiving Action Network, and that is a nationwide nonprofit organization aimed at helping and supporting all types of caregivers. That could be family caregivers that are taking care of their parents, could be caregivers taking care of children with special needs, could be wounded veterans. But it's free. They have support lines that you can call into. They're trained. It's non-for-profit. So that's one. Another one is the Alzheimer's Foundation of America, or AFA. Obviously, that's providing educational and supportive services for caregivers that are dealing with folks with Alzheimer's. Again, that goes back to basically my background. My father developed Alzheimer's, and he suffered with it for over 10 years. And I know the stress that has on everyone. So there's that support group. There's also a support group of the Alzheimer's Association. They do wonderful things too. Again, these are national, but they're also local. So I would suggest that you look into your local chapters. There's a Facebook group out there called Working Daughter. I don't know if anybody's aware of that one. And it's geared towards women that are doing part-time or full-time jobs and also caregiving. I think that's a nice kind of group to be involved with if that's your scenario. There's a one called Parent to Parent USA, and that is more geared towards folks that that are providing support for parents that are dealing with children with disabilities. And then there's the National Alliance for Mental Illness. Obviously, that could kind of goes across the full board. So there's just some of the suggestions of support groups. There's going to be a lot of ones that are probably local to your community. I would also look into that, and especially your faith community. I mean, you're in one now, but they grew out of most likely your parishes too. So your parishes probably have ministries that are geared to helping folks like yourself. Reach out to them. Okay, more help. Let's go to the financial assistance. The biggest, most sage advice I can give you is get professional help. And what I mean by professional help is you want to go to folks that understand the nuances of financial assistance. And that is family or elder attorneys who specialize in elder law, because you might be dealing with things like trusts, you might be dealing with things with wills, power of attorneys, end of life directives, but also the financial piece of it is you probably also need to look into financial planning. Financial planning is going to be important because as you're caregiving, some of these things you might have financial responsibilities regarding long-term care outside of what you can provide. And these folks will help you understand what's available to you, what your parents might have saved, what kind of insurance covers things. And I'm going to go through a little bit of that, but not a lot, because that's not my area of expertise. But I would say really financial planners. Another area I would look into also if anyone has that you're caring for was a veteran. And a veteran means someone that has been in the service during a war. It's kind of a big, broad understanding. The VA will provide benefits to help pay for various things. Some of it is home health, and it's not only for um, the actual veteran, but also their spouses. Now, the spouses have to be still married to that veteran, even if the veteran has passed. That the spouse is still able to have the VA benefits. So go and search out a VA claims person, adjuster. It's something you can do on your own if you contact the VA, but it's very bureaucratic, let's say. So I would reach out to somebody who can actually provide that help. There's also in the professional side, people called care managers. Again, let's go back to that scenario of our head in the sand. In the head in the sand, um, all of a sudden you're now taking care of a loved one, and that could have a lot of different things you have to deal with. It could be medical, it could be financial. Um, a care manager is someone that comes in and basically kind of helicopters everything, kind of looks at the different care, the different needs that your loved one might need or yourself. And they will kind of coordinate the care. Now, with all that said, these things are going to cost. So bear that in mind. But back to the financial assistance, the government has some things you could also take advantage of. And I'm just going to list them here real quick. Some of them are from the government, some of them are just actual investment things. But you could look into a reverse mortgage if your parents or someone your loved ones are have um, ownership, so they can do a reverse mortgage to help pay for things. Again, I'm not going to get into the details of this. It's not my area of expertise, um, but this will help perhaps pay for additional medical needs you have. We talked about the veterans benefits. The other type of government assistance is Medicaid and Medicare. Now, sometimes people don't understand what Medicaid and Medicare are. Medicare deals with coverage for covering, skilled nursing care, rehabilitations, things of that nature. Medicaid typically is dealing with supplemental kind of help. They do have something called now Medicaid Advantage. Medicaid Advantage goes into the realm of what we provide as Homewatch Caregiver, which is a professional caregiver coming into the home. All these things, in addition to different types of life insurance, what kind of life insurance do you have out there for your parents or your loved ones? Long-term care insurance a lot of time takes care of or helps pay for medical. And also, you can also look into annuities. But I'm going to stress one more time, please look into professionals to help you kind of navigate through all these different things. It's tough. I know. I mean, one of the hardest things I had when my dad had dementia was going into his home and figuring out what was on his TV, what was he paying for cable, believe it or not. And it was amazing what he was paying for cable. Secondly, I had to figure out how to use his remote, which was, and he couldn't help. So, anyway, I digress. All right, other types of help. Now let's go into the quality of life. Look at the senior centers. Senior centers are typically community-based organizations. What I'm thinking of here locally, and I live in Illinois, we have something called Riverwalk Adult Day Services. And I'm going to throw out another term out there for you, respite, respite care. What respite care is, and it basically is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically giving a break, helping somebody out in a short period of time. So there's respite care in facilities, but respite care also could mean just giving the family caregiver a break. So you could take a loved one to one of these senior centers and they have activities and you can basically drop them off at these facilities for a couple hours. Let's go back to that cartoon of taking the oxygen on yourself. That's taking the oxygen on yourself. That is giving you your respite. That's giving you a break. That's letting you put your feet up, you know, maybe rub your eyes a little bit. So investigate your senior centers. Part of the senior centers that I would classify into this are your park districts. Your park districts have a lot of activities that are geared towards seniors. In COVID, one of the big things that happened with our seniors is that they were isolated. They couldn't go out. They couldn't go anywhere. Even if they were staying at home and being cared for by family members, they had no socialization. These park district um, um, services have the ability for seniors to get together, even remotely. Again, here locally, our Lisle, Illinois Park District has had craft events where they will provide seniors with a craft material. For Easter, they had blocks of wood and um, chalk and all these things that they would drop off to the senior's home. And then they would have a Zoom meeting and they would have an expert walk them through putting together a craft. I mean, that's socialization. That is, moving and helping out with caring for someone. And again, it goes back to that respite to give you that respite, let you kind of take care of yourself. Another thing that we have locally, and I know this is national, is something called Triad. And Triad is a combination of police and civil services like fire departments, senior providers, which are somebody like myself at Homewatch CareGivers, um, and also seniors. And what they are doing is they put together programs. And the programs, it could be what I just said about the crafts. It could be something regarding care for somebody's car. It could be a bingo. But this goes back to there's things out there that you can pull upon that gives you break, that socializes your loved one if it's appropriate, but helps with the quality of life. The other thing of quality of life that I think we should be aware of as caregivers are the service providers out there that help in regards to the setup that you are dealing with. And what I mean by that is there are senior providers that provide home modification. My head was in the sand. I didn't realize I had to take care of mom. Mom is in the wheelchair. Mom can't get around my house. We have a 2-story house. We have to do something about how mom and dad can get around. So maybe I need to get a ramp or a chairlift. So home modification companies do things like that. There's also, wanted to make you aware of this, there are audiologists, hearing. Through the Americans with Disabilities Act, funds have been set aside to help people with hearing disabilities. And there are companies out there that will provide free of charge phones. They call it voice to tech um, technology that will translate what is going through a phone and put it as a text on a screen. So our seniors, our loved ones, who are maybe having a hard time hearing, they can have this device and they can still hear, but also they can see what is being said. And it also does it back. So it's a beautiful service. There are companies out there that, again, provide these types of phones free of charge. That might help the quality of life of your loved ones. And it might take some relief off of you. You don't have to be the interpreter with your parents or someone who's having hard of hearing. If you feel that it's time to move a loved one out of their current home, uh, there are particular companies or services that deal with, number one, moving real estate that specifically are geared towards the unique circumstances that might be involved if you have to move out of a home that parents have lived in for 40 years. That can include how to declutter, storing, moving from that facility to another facility across country. Um, there are real estate companies out there that do that, and I know they're across the country. There's also, and I'll talk about this a little later when we get into the living situation. There are also people out there that will assist you and the family on finding places where mom and dad can go. Okay, back to quality of life, home health. Um, so this is where we're getting to areas that maybe the caregiving is getting a bit overwhelming. And I said with living options. So for the home health, there are more buckets we can go into in regards to assistance for you. There are non-medical home care companies, and that's what I am. We are caregivers like you, but we are not the family. And typically what these folks are, they provide, it's not typical actually, this is what we are. We're non-medical. And this is important to understand, non-medical. That means these caregivers are coming typically into your home or to your parents' home and providing a lot of the things that you're doing right now. They could be cooking, they could be cleaning, they could be a companion, they can engage them, they can stay there for them for a couple hours. Um, this is where another kind of that respite idea comes in play. That, for example, for my parents, what we did with my mom was, her health was going, but she was very independent. And she did not want to have anybody that's going to take care of her. She could take care of herself. So we positioned it that this person was coming in to help with the household chores, cleaning, doing some laundry, things of that nature. But they really were caregivers. And the idea was, we knew that my mom's ability to take care of herself was going to get worse as they go along. So we introduced this person as a caregiver, but not as a caregiver, more as somebody to help domestically. My mom got comfortable with these people coming in. So we then kind of upped how many times they were coming in. And then we kind of expanded what they were doing. Before long, caregivers became part of our family, and it was a big help. So that's one piece, non-medical, home care, and those are caregivers. They could, in our case, we could come in for a couple hours a week. We can come in for a couple of days. We can go all the way up to 24/7. And most companies are like that. Some of them might have you required to have a minimum amount of hours you have them come in. We don't, but that's just us. Other companies might. You'll just have to look around. There's something called nursing care, and that's people that come in and do real medical things. But that's what Debbie does. That's Debbie, and I'm sure she can talk more about this than me. But this is skilled nursing. These are folks that are coming into your home. They're registered nurses or licensed practitioner nurses, and they can provide a wide range of services. Again, this is where go back to that need level that you're dealing with. Can you handle what is needed, or do you need help? Do you need skilled nursing? Do you need medical care, nursing care? Home health care is very similar to the nursing care, but it's more specific to like rehabilitation. And um, and it's typically prescribed by a doctor following either hospitalization, rehabilitation, from an injury or an illness. So those are three different types of quality of life home health scenarios. The living options, this is where you have to maybe look at some various options for your parents or your loved ones when they no longer could, when they need to take that next step perhaps, or you need to take that next step. This is, again, going back to that beautiful prayer that Deb talked about. So what are some of those different type of living options? Well, there's independent living. And independent living basically means that our parents are staying at home, they're living at home. It's called aging in place. And this is not everybody's scenario. As Kelly said, our scenario was we started the aging in place. We started with independent living, where my parents went into what they call a continual care community, which basically let them start one part and go down the path of more assistance as they needed it, and that's a continual care retirement community piece that they were in. So the aging in place, there's specific communities that are only 55 years or plus, and I actually now qualify for that, but I'm not doing that yet. But these are for folks that can live on their own. These are for folks that have the ability to do all those activities of daily living. It doesn't mean that somebody can't live on their own but still need assistance. Could be assistance from you as a family caregiver, or it could be assistance from something like our company. So there's there's senior co-housing communities where the seniors will share communities in a home sharing kind of network. Then there's other types of options out there, and it's all based upon what your particular loved one's needs are. And I hope that everyone knows what the breakdowns of these various places are. But a nursing community are basically where folks are going to. This is what we used to call, the I won't say old folks home, but it's something similar to that. These are senior facilities that offer a higher level of medical care. So we're going away from that independent. We need to have training a little bit more closely. Hopefully you guys can see me, because it seems like I just saw the internet was being a little troublesome there. They can provide, a lot of these can provide 24-hour supervision if needed. It's more clinical in nature. Obviously, it's going to be more expensive. These are things, again, we'll go back to the financial piece. You go to those financial planners, you understand what can be afforded. Respite care is also under these facilities, because I'd mentioned respite care in regards to somebody coming in to help you out at the house, or somebody coming or you dropping off people at these senior centers. Facilities are also set up where you can, let's say that the family is going on a vacation and mom and dad can't come with us. There are places where you can take mom and dad for a short period of time to stay. And that's, again, respite care. So there are places that are set up to help you there. Assisted living is exactly what it sounds like. They're assisting in the living of your loved ones. I'm trying to look at my notes here and I can't find them, but memory care facilities. Some of these assisted living also have memory care capabilities. So typically what assisted living is like an apartment kind of complex. Some of them are extremely nice. I jokingly say that one of them in our area is like the W Hotel that I don't think I could even get in. It's so gorgeous. And they have monitors on everybody. They can see everything. They have fantastic food. It's not like that old nursing home idea that we used to have. But a lot of these places also have parts of it that are just dedicated to memory care. So obviously these people need to have a more tightly monitored way of life, because you got to make sure they're not wandering or doing things that might harm themselves. And there's also facilities are just completely um, dedicated to being memory care. There's also hospice. Now, when talking to Kelly, I think a lot of times people don't understand what hospice is. Hospice is basically a service and facilities that are dealing with a type of care for terminal illness. That terminal illness doesn't mean it's right away. A terminal illness can be months to even years. Um, and hospice care can happen in facilities. It can also happen in the home. There are companies that will come into your home and provide hospice care. My mom was in hospice for, I want to say, about 4 to 6 months. My dad a little lesser than that. But I think sometimes new to all of this, we have our head in the sand. We don't understand what hospice or palliative care is. Palliative care is when that terminal illness is getting pretty severe, and palliative is basically making the person comfortable as they go through this. All of these things, all of these living options are unique. So I want to go back to what I said before about looking for assistance and senior providers. There are companies out there that will walk you through these types of scenarios, and they don't charge you a thing. You might have heard of a place called A Place for Mom with Joan London. That's a national service, and they do have kind of localized branches. I actually like the local companies that do this. It's called Senior Living Experts. And what these folks will do is they will work with the family, understand the finances, the health, the situation, and they will recommend either a facility that makes sense for your loved ones, and they'll tour those facilities with you. It could be any one of these types of facilities I just mentioned here. It could also mean that they say, you know what, mom and dad are okay. They're okay where they're at, but you probably need assistance in some respite care, or you need some professional home care people to come in to help you, or you may need some home modifications. So I can't stress enough that these guys are almost exactly what the whole premise of this presentation is about. They really do understand your situation and work with you for the best thing, the best scenario for your loved ones. So I hope some of this was helpful. It's probably stuff you already knew. If it is stuff you already knew, then good. But be aware of these things and how it's affecting you, because caregiving is a beautiful thing. It's a calling, not a job, and it's hard.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. You had a lot of information and a lot of things that went by as we were going through. So, and a couple of questions did start coming into the chat box. So we'll kind of start feeding a couple of those to you.
Well, hopefully I can answer.
If not, I'm sure there's something we can figure out. So Maria asked if there's any services for severe macular degeneration. Her mom is going blind. So just, I think as you were talking about the phone with the audiologist, I think that kind of prompted that question. So just kind of throwing that question out.
Yeah, I don't know specifically, but I do know there's a lot of different practices out there that do focus in on that. And I think the good news for you is that through this pandemic, that there is a lot of reaching out into the various homes because of your situation. People are not going outside the homes. So I would suggest looking into, there are senior services that are, we have something called Age Guide here. I don't know if that's the equivalent out in wherever you are. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what community you were in. But these local communities will put you in touch with those kinds of specialties. There's also various organizations. I think if you're going to do like a Google search or try to figure something out like that, I would put in your local area, put in senior providers or senior services, or actually particular to your scenario. So what illness or disease that you're handling. Um, and again, I would go to a church too. I would someone some churches have parish nurses, and parish nurses could probably also
Paul, thank you. And Maria, I just want to say my parents also have macular degeneration. And adding to it, to what Paul said, the Vision Center where they receive their care from the doctors, that many communities have actual specialists to provide equipment and other sorts of things for reading and to help you adjust to even the most severe of macular degeneration. So don't give up hope. Paul, there's another question that came in. Is there any help if for the caregiver, for me, if I'm hearing impaired?
Ooh, that's a good question. Not the top of my head, but I know personally and professionally, I'm starting to hook up with a lot more audiologists because that is a big need. And I know that there are practices that are focusing in on seniors' issues. To me, what you just described would kind of go into that category because I'm assuming you're taking care of someone that's a little older. As a matter of fact, I just connected with an audiologist who is actually training people, training caregivers that have the hearing issues. So they're not actually providing maybe hearing devices, but techniques. Um, and if I can find it here in Illinois, I would imagine they're out there for you too. I wish I had a magic wand to give you the name of somebody right now. But again, I think it will go back to one of the themes I had before. You're not alone out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And continuing to look. That's good. Marianne has a question. She said there are so many home assistant companies like yours to choose from. Choosing one can be a little bit overwhelming. So
Yep.
Sort of as getting started with that, what should one look for? What questions should we ask? Where's some of those beginning steps with that?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. First of all, make sure they're certified. Make sure they're certified by your state. I would do a little research into seeing who their caregivers are. Caregivers don't have to be professionals, and a lot of times, because they're not doing medical, they're not going to have Debbie's credentials. They're not going to be nurses. They're not going to be CPAs. Of course, they're not going to be CPAs because they'd be doing your taxes. But they're not going to be CNA. But back to your question, do the thing you would do with anything. You go on Google reviews. You see what people are actually putting on about what's their reputation. Google does a good job of identifying things like that. I mean, one of the good things about the social media thing is that they will post and they give a ranking. And the people that are ranking are the people that are getting the service. They're the ones that are having the care brought to them. So I do those two things. The other thing I would do, and most home care companies do this, I know that we do, have them come out, have them come to you. We typically do an evaluation free of charge. And the evaluation is more of to understand the scenario, to understand the person that's going to be receiving the care needs, but also what the family needs. It's then we come up with a plan of care. So, we suggested we come here for this amount of time, we do this and do that. But it's a good way for you to put eyeballs on the people that are going to be taking care of your loved ones. Now, with that said, this is a service industry, and service is individual. So it's okay. Go with a company and you decide the caregiver you have is not working out. You don't like them. You have every right to go to another one. There's nothing wrong in that. In fact, actually, I would encourage it. Some of the things I would look out for if somebody, if a home health company is requiring certain things, it doesn't sound right. There are going to be some things they need, some medical history, but not a lot. They're not going to require you to, you're stuck on a contract with us for X amount. That typically is not the case. Or they provide services, they schedule it out, and you have every right to say, nope, I need to go someplace. And that happens all the time. It could be that, that your mom thinks I'm an idiot, because sometimes my family thinks I'm an idiot. And that's okay. That's okay. It's about taking care of your loved ones.
Kurt actually asked a question. I'm going to get this last one in here. Are there any numbers or resources where we can call to get free respite care? Another good
Yes,
question,
actually,
right?
Yeah, good questions tonight.
There is. And I'm thinking, again, I hate to do this, be regional about this, but I know that we are in various counties, like everybody is. So Will County has a Will County Senior Services. And that Will County Senior Services provides respite care for people that may have a hard time paying. And what they typically will have is an agreement with a company like ours. The county will have funds that will pay a company like us for you. So yes, it's out there. I don't know about your particular area, your particular part of the country, but that is not something that's actually pretty typical. So I would say look into, I mentioned the Triad. Go to the Triad and maybe ask them, because Triad's going to know those kinds of things. I would go to your county, look at their website. Look at their website. See what your county offers you. So yeah, it's out there. You got to do a little digging.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So we're going to wrap up in just a minute. Paul, thank you so much for taking on some very difficult and very specific questions. I think one of the things we might want to do, you had mentioned a number of things, Paul, like the Caregiver Action Network and a number of these organizations. Perhaps what Kelly and I can do is follow up, especially as we make this video available to everyone. But we can also put in our social media as well. And we have a resources page on our website where we can make sure that we have a lot of these things listed for people. So thank you. Yeah,
absolutely. A little plug for us, in a sense, not for my company, but like you guys, we also have the resource pages that, again, connects you to those various places.
Great.
So other places have that too.
And Paul, how can people find you on the web? Where do they go?
Oh, I wasn't expecting that one.
I think it's right here on the screen. I wanted to call that out for everybody.
There you go. There you go. And by the way, we are a national company and we're locally owned. So we're a franchise. So that means that we are around you somewhere.
Perfect.
Perfect.
That's
Thank
great.
you. Well, and again, a lot of information to digest in a very short period of time. And we've got more coming up. And this is just a bit of a highlight. So May 5th, we have Kendra Webster, who's going to be joining us and talking about cultivating meaning in your family caregiving role. And I hope you will join us for that one as well. Kendra has an artistic background as well as being a long role in helping caregivers find and get services. So I hope that you can join us on May 5th to hear Kendra talk about cultivating that meaning in the role. And then on May 19th, we have Carlos Briseño, who's going to be joining us. We got a theme going here, I think, Kelly, with art,
Right.
art and beauty of caring, and looking at some of the very specific ways in which art can be a wonderful way for us to engage during our caregiving journey. And then on June 2nd, we have the Associate Director of Development and Senior Adult Ministry, Bill Clark, who's going to be talking about caregiving and the power of prayer. And I'll just warn you all now, as you're preparing for June 2nd, bring a Kleenex and be ready to be emotionally touched. And then, of course, the perfect gift to brighten your day or someone else's is the Caregiver's Companion. And it's available at Amazon and through our publisher at Ave Maria Press. And I just want to say a personal thank you for many of you who have dropped us notes about what this book has meant to you, how it's aided you in your journey. And we love knowing that it really does do that for you. So please keep the comments coming. Any feedback is appreciated. As well, we have those resources on our website. So please go out there, take a look at those. They're all free resources. They're there for you. And don't forget, we do house calls. We're still doing that every Tuesday and Thursday morning. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us. And Paul,
Thank
a
you.
lot of great information. Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you
You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope it was helpful.
very much. So. Thank you.
Have a wonderful
Great.
evening, everyone, and we hope to see you on May 5th.
Good
Bye-bye.
night, everyone. Thank you.